Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. We have a couple stocks that are moving big time this morning, Lucid being one of them. They actually reported their earnings yesterday, and the stock was kind of mixed in after hours yesterday, but it's definitely continuing to run. We know that Lucid has just been on like an explosive uptrend for the past couple weeks now, and they're getting very, very close to that $50 resistance, which will be huge. So we're definitely in for an exciting day today.
Yeah, and they actually broke that resistance earlier on, so hopefully we can see it get back above there, but it looks like it's definitely having some problems right now, and I feel like at market open, it's going to be tough for this one to keep going up. There's been so much momentum that I feel like it just almost can't continue, but at the same time, this stock has a lot of hype around it, and I really feel like that with the good news, it can keep going. It's just realistically, should it? It's a hard question with the way the earnings went, but in the end, it was a very good earnings report. Really glad to see everything that they were doing, and they really have a lot of advancements coming. Like they talked about a lot of investments into their factories and different stuff like that. They won that Motor Trend Car of the Year award, which was honestly, to me, I think one of the biggest pieces of news there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to see how they'll be able to deliver on their production goals because, even with all of the technology and experience and everything that Tesla has, like, even they struggle to, reach some of their, like, production goals. So, and then especially with, like, the current, I guess you can say, world right now with there being shortages of everything, I just think it'll be very interesting to see how efficiently Lucid is able to produce and then deliver their cars.
Yeah, especially with all these like production delays and different stuff like that going on, like you would think that there'd be some type of issues going on. And, they talked about that it seems pretty streamlined right now, but I think that their goal was what, 20,000, I think, for next year. So we'll have
Yeah.
to see what ends up happening. But, 20,000, I remember in the beginning, Tesla was, like you said, having lots of issues, and, they were down there around those lower numbers in the beginning also. So it's definitely going to be a strange situation. And I'll be honest, like we're seeing Lucid run up here on the daily chart. I'm sure at some point there'll be some type of bad news come out, like a share offering or something that'll end up making him tank. But in the end, I love the company for the longer term. It's going to be like Tesla in the beginning. A lot of people don't even understand that Tesla was really up and down a lot too.
No doubt. So here we go. Look at that gap on the chart, up 11% on the day. There we go. I'm looking at some of the options right now. It looks like some of these oh wow, the weeklies aren't even up that much. I was actually expecting a lot more of a move. So we could see the weekly chain. These calls are only up around 50%. So that's very interesting. And the stock's coming down now. So with this one, guys, just be careful for an IV crush because that normally happens around earnings and that can screw you over. So watch out for that. Tom, what other stocks are you watching for today?
Yeah, I was keeping my eye on. Of course, I'm keeping my eye on Clover. There, they had that bad drop this morning. I'm really watching these China stocks. Mike Baba had another gap up today, and they actually gapped up above that 168 resistance from yesterday, which was nice. They did touch that 169 resistance though, and end up coming back down. But I really hope that Baba can start to get back up there. The China stocks are doing pretty well again. We have JD up this morning as well, and even Queb has had a pretty nice day. So overall, the China stocks are doing good. And I know that Biden and President Xi met yesterday. So hopefully we have to see how that kind of went. But I know that that online conference went decently well, but they are supposed to talk even more over the next few months, which should be pretty good news.
There we go. So most of the stocks on my watch list are red today. We have BLNK down nearly 8%. I mean, that's looking pretty tough right there. We could see RUN's also down. Boeing's down a little bit. Microsoft's down. So nothing like too drastic besides Blink. But I thought it was very interesting, Tom, when we're looking at Blink, how Biden signed the infrastructure bill yesterday. And it looks like this is like kind of like buy the rumor, sell the news type thing.
Yeah, it looks like it is. It had a lot of run ups, running into this. And then we ran up. We hit like $47 yesterday, and looks like we're coming right back down. And, it looks like they had a pretty bad gap to the downside, actually. So it's not looking too good here. I would definitely be careful with BLNK. Like Mike said, a lot of times, a lot of stuff likes to run up with these rumors. And then once it actually happens, you just have to kind of, lots of traders take profits or it just ends up selling off. So just be really careful with it. I feel like it's a good stock for the long term, but man, in the short term, it's going to be all over the place. Obviously, I think a lot of people were hoping it would continue today after that amazing run up yesterday. But man, I felt like it ran up so much yesterday that it just almost had to consolidate a little bit after some of this crazy movement we've had.
Yep. All right. Well, I just want to welcome everyone to the stream really quickly. Thank you guys so much for being here, and welcome Mike, Alex, Eddie, Vicky, J Trade, Keisha, Corbin, George, Mac, Hunter, Carlos, Mike, and Eddie. We really appreciate you guys joining the stream, and just let us know what stocks you're watching. We could definitely take a look at them. But looking at some of the comments, we have Eddie saying, "Hey, Mike and Tom, how far do you think Mara can drop?" So I was actually looking at this one a little bit earlier in the morning, and Bitcoin has been falling off in a pretty big way lately. It really depends. Like, there's so many variables into that question, Eddie, to like give you like an accurate answer. So, like I said, there's just so many variables that have to be taken into account. So it's really hard to answer that question given all of the I guess you could say inputs. So as of right now, it's on a downtrend. There is support at 50 that looks like we're bouncing off of. But yeah, I mean that's really all we can say because there's a lot of things that come into place.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just marking some lower support lines down here. So like if we did break below $50, I would think that we could easily fall down to maybe like 45 to $44 down to the next resistance or next support, I should say. And then below that, I would obviously eye up $40 even. That one was also a pretty big support. So those are some levels you can look for. But like Mike said, it's so hard to just predict and like a spot on, price point for a stock going up or down, of course. And a lot of times you can look at technicals like we can look at the 50 support and just look for a little bounce off of that. But obviously you could still end up going down and breaking that. So just be really careful. But I'll be honest, it looks like that bounce is pretty good there, Mike. And it's really coming up today at open.
Very nice, Tom. We can't forget about BABA. It's breaking out. We are just under 170. We have a huge week for these China stocks. A lot of them are reporting earnings. I believe BABA is on Thursday, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, we have a huge week for them. And BABA's breaking out right now, and there's some pretty good volume coming in.
Yeah, definitely. And they really are reporting Thursday. So that's going to be really cool to see before the market opens. I can't wait for it. I think that this was pretty good news last night with Biden and Xi talking. I think that that's going to help the relations a little bit. I know that they were getting slightly shaky there for a while. So hopefully that helps out. And they are supposed to talk a little bit more, over the winter. I think things got a little bit friendlier. So hopefully that's good news for the China stocks. I can't wait to see how BABA does over the next few days. And like you said, with them getting up to 170, I really hope they can break above that today. It looks like they have a lot of potential to. And I think it's just going to help out a lot of these China stocks that if we're starting to, if our relations get a little bit better. I know that for a while there, China was having the Evergrande situation. They were trying to compete with us, like with different chip markets and stuff like that. And, they've always been very strange, like in their governmental policies towards us. So obviously there's a bunch of stuff with that, but hopefully the relations are getting better.
Awesome. All right, I want to showcase Rivian really quickly, RIVN. This stock just keeps going, Tom. Like, I know it IPO'd, what was it, like 4 or 5 trading days ago, like at like $100, and now it's at $160. So, like, this thing is going crazy right now. I've been really thinking about something just like either like an iron condor or like a call credit spread or something like that, just to take advantage of this this crazy like overextended movement in my opinion, but then two, these I guess you could say overpriced options. It's weird because we're not getting a reading on implied volatility right now, but if we go to like the options chain, like for example for December, the 160 strike calls cost nearly $3,000. So it's like if you do like an iron condor or iron butterfly, that could be a pretty good way to go right now. And the options seem they're definitely not like super liquid, but then again the market's only been open for like 6 minutes, so there should be a good opportunity with this one.
Yeah, you're right. Is today the first day with the options?
I don't think so. Let me just double check really quickly. So if I go to the November chain, oh wait, actually it might be. Hold on. Yeah, I think it is, Tom.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense because, man, I was like, whenever you started talking about it, I didn't see the implied volatility there. I was like, man, what happened? But yeah, I guess that it's just the first day, so they're just kind of coming on the market. But man, that's going to be crazy. You said they're $3,000 at the money. Like, man, Rivian's almost priced like Tesla's options now.
I know, cause like think about it like this, like for so like their expirations, like you know how the new IPOs usually are. So it's like they have a November 19th expiration, and then their next expiration is December 17th. So they don't have the expirations in between. So it's like, let's say someone were to buy Rivian calls, they're not gonna buy the calls that expire in 3 days, like if they're looking to swing trade it. So they'd go over to December. If we went over to like the at the money options, it costs nearly $3,000. So if we put that into perspective, if someone bought the 160 calls right now, their break even price would be 190. So it's like, you know what I mean? I feel like that's pretty pricey. And since we already had a pretty good move, I don't know. Like I'm really considering I don't know, like doing like an iron condor or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely sounds like a pretty good strategy. And, I would think that it would start to slow down eventually. We did come down today at market open, and it looks like it is coming right back up. And, it might keep going up for today or for the next couple of days. But, I feel like it has to slow down at some point. And like you said, that implied volatility might end up falling off a little bit. So hopefully we see those pricings or the options pricing go back down a little bit, and then you can take advantage of that. And, I'm with you. I think that it looks like it might start consolidating as well. It had such an exponential move. Like, it started out around $100. Like, what are we going to do? Rise 100% before before the first pullback? Like, man, some of these IPOs have been crazy to the downside. And it looks like Rivian's actually one of the few that have been actually going up since IPOing, which is a pretty cool sight to see, actually. It's a lot better than looking at these stocks like Coinbase that just end up losing, half of their valuation over the next like month.
Right. I mean, I'm honestly pretty surprised with how Rivian's moving. The last time I saw, they have zero in sales, and they have a pretty ambitious valuation, we'll say. So, like, if we look at Finviz right now, we can see their valuation is $120 billion. And then if we look at, let's say, Lucid's valuation, it's only 74 billion. So it's like, like it's a pretty big valuation. Like even GM's valuation only 89 billion. Ford, we have what is that? Ford, we have 900. Oh no, I was looking at Facebook. Oops. Ford, we have 79 billion. So it's like Rivian's definitely up there.
Yeah, they are. I'm kind of pulling up some pictures of like their trucks right now, and they look pretty promising. Like some of their vehicles look pretty good. They kind of remind me of some of those some of like the Lucid Air. I know the Lucid has like that solid headlight kind of going across like that. It looks like Rivian has that too. And I know they have the truck coming out, and hopefully it's not like the Nikola truck. I mean, that was definitely a man, that was a really bad scenario whenever that happened. And Nikola, I want to point this out to everybody. Nikola actually had a pretty good move to the upside before they started falling, on this news with that truck. And I know it ended up being a fraud, of course, but, for a while there, Nikola had a lot of hype, and some of these new IPOs like Rivian and even like Lucid, they might have a lot of hype like this in the short term, but who knows, they might end up falling off or something too. And maybe not as drastically, because these guys obviously had a lot of problems with the SEC, just fraud and different stuff like that. So obviously, I think these other companies are a little bit better, but in the end, there could be some production problems or something like that could make Lucid or some of these other companies end up coming down. And I feel like it's definitely a possibility, especially while they're in these beginning phases. And I like how you pointed out that a lot of these companies are moving, really without having any revenue or profits, really. But keep in mind, Tesla is running a lot like that too.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just something to keep in mind. It's definitely going to be on my watch, and it looks like it's still running. So either way, it's definitely a powerhouse. Then we have, we had Hunter saying, I checked their options yesterday, and they didn't have them. Good stuff there. Keisha said, I bought Lucid at $24 and just took profits. What price target should I wait to buy more shares? So you said you got in at 24 initially. I mean, right now it's just under 50. I feel like there's a pretty good support level right around 35, which is pretty good, and then another support right around 30. So, in my opinion, between that range is good. Obviously, the lower the better, but you can always sell puts if you want to.
Yeah, definitely. And the stock might not ever go back down there. Like we saw Tesla and some of those stocks go up. And if this one ends up, breaking all-time highs and then consolidating somewhere around $50, you'll have to look at it, more objectively in the future. But for right now, I really like $40. And then, like Mike said, if you can really get it around 30, that would obviously be the most ideal area. I think that's going to pose a huge support in the longer term. And, hopefully we don't get back down there, but I feel like if we do, obviously that'll be a great buying point.
Gotcha. Alrighty, so yeah, good stuff there. It looks like some of the main movers today, Tom, is actually Peloton, and it's to the upside. They're up 7% even after they announced what I believe is a $1 billion share offering.
Yeah, that's actually some crazy news, and I can't believe that they're continuing to the upside on this. We can see Clover, CLOV, had their share offering, and they're tanking off to the downside very drastically. It's really interesting to see Peloton going up with this. I know that the CNBC report this morning reported that Peloton even came out and said that they didn't specifically need this cash, but in the end, it looks like they're flying up, and who knows, maybe they needed the cash. I mean, it looks like it's helping them, and hopefully they can go up because, man, they had a very bad gap to the downside there with those earnings. That was honestly one of the worst moves that we've seen. We've seen Chegg and a couple others, but man, Peloton had a really bad sell off. Hopefully they can get back, Mike. I know that we've been talking about it for the past few days, and hopefully this is the turnaround that they need. But it's very strange to me that they went up whenever most stocks go down with these.
Yeah, and Tom, we're not talking about a small offering either. This is a $1 billion offering. So I don't know. I mean, I know they're a big company and all, but either way, they're at a low level. I do like them for short puts. That's kind of a win-win right now because you can go pretty far out of the money and get some nice premiums. So I do like them for short puts. There's definitely a good opportunity there. We have Spacely saying top of the morning, Rivian options. Yeah, we'll take another look at Rivian. It's still going up, Tom. It looks like they're going for another breakout, and they're just under 170.
Yeah, it looks like it just made that new all-time high right there, and hopefully it can get back up. I mean, man, it's been a very choppy morning, I think, with this one. The market opened, we tanked, we had some big candles back up, we tanked again, we had another big candle. I'd like to see some good movement, just one way or the other. So hopefully we see it break out above 170. I feel like if we do see it move above that, we could see a great continuation. This stock obviously has been running pretty exponentially whenever it's been breaking some pretty key levels. So hopefully we see it break that and go up. And I feel like it definitely has the potential to, given everything going on. And I really hope that like Wall Street Bets and everyone starts getting behind this.
Oh gosh, I'm just like I don't know. I'm trying to see like the best way to play this right now. Like I don't think shares are the move right now for a variety of reasons, but I feel like a call credit spread or something like that could be pretty good right now because it went from what 100 up to 160, 160, what no 170, basically 170. And if you like sell like the 200 strike call and buy like the 210 call, I don't know. It's just something to think about, but. Either way, like these options are expensive, so I feel like it should be some sort of like credit slash premium strategy, and either like neutral or like slightly bearish.
Yeah, I do too, because it's just going to be so unpredictable. And if you just play if you just play the naked options just straight up, I mean, obviously it could work out, if you get puts and then it falls down enough. But, if it falls a little bit and then consolidates and then, then that time decay gets you along with everything else. If you're playing the weeklies, it's going to be a crazy scenario. I would say like Mike said, go for something where you can just play that credit. I think that'll be the biggest way to go, or just collect that premium, obviously. In the end, I don't think I'd even buy shares either. I normally like to buy shares of just about everything, but man, yeah, I don't even think I'd get Rivian shares up here. It looks like a pretty drastic rise, and hopefully we see it kind of come back down and consolidate a little bit, just so that we can start to see some good data on the chart. And I'd like to see some good support start to form.
Yeah, I know Jerry's messing with some Rivian put options, and they're a weekly, Tom. So I definitely hope it works for him, but. Right now, it's at a pretty important level. I just think Jerry already knows with those weeklies, but sometimes they go crazy. So I really do hope it works for you, Jerry. I know that they're out of the money, but like they're not that far out of the money, Tom. They're the 145 strikes. Like if we look at Rivian, like I feel like it's had bigger moves in a day than where it needs to go to.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that as well. And 145 down there isn't too bad. Honestly, that's almost just like the pre-market movement. We closed around like 150, you could say yesterday. And then we rose all the way up to 170. That was like a 20-point move. So if we fall down 20 points, yeah, we'll be like at like 140. So yeah, I could see that happening for sure. And with everything going on, I would not be surprised to see it. And it looks like it is actually coming down here on the 1 minute. Looks like it's selling off pretty drastically after hitting that 170 level. So, man, we might start to see it. And wow, I mean, honestly, like if we start to break this intraday support around like 156.75, I think we could maybe come down to at least 150, if not 145.
Yeah, here we go. I mean, it is turning around, which is exactly what we want to see for Jerry. So there we go. Just to get a quick look at the market overall, Tom, the SPY is ripping right now. Like we look at this chart and looks like we're getting pretty close to new all-time highs.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised to see this because, like you pointed out earlier, a lot of my watch list is red today, but some of the bigger stocks are green, which is good, I guess. One stock that is green, Mike, that might actually blow your mind is going to be Disney. Look at them come up this morning. It actually looks like they're bouncing off support pretty well, and man, hopefully they can start to get up. I know that they had that bad move with earnings, and Disney's coming up. Looks like Tesla's coming up a little bit after all that Elon Musk selling his shares stuff. They're back above $1,000, which is a pretty cool thing to see today. That's awesome. Netflix is up today. They're in the green. That's always good to see too. And it seems like a lot of stocks are doing decent at least. AMD is moving pretty well. I know even Intel was green. So yeah, lots of stocks are doing pretty decent. But I like how you pointed out a lot of my watch list is red, but it does seem like those are some of like the like lower cap growth stocks. It's not necessarily the market movers.
Yeah. All right, we have Hunter saying Fubo still falling from earnings the other day. Yeah, I was looking at that one. Like, they're looking pretty rough. I was thinking about maybe selling some puts on it. IV's pretty low, though, so I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a great setup with IV this low, but all in all, yeah, they're not looking too good. And there's a lot of good stocks at good levels right now.
Yeah, and if you do sell puts on them, just be a little careful because we're seeing lots of stocks unfortunately start to like break these major supports. Like a lot of growth stocks are going down too. Like we have Palantir, down quite a bit again today. It looks like they're back on the downtrend. We have BLNK turning around a lot, like we talked about. Clover, they had that share offering and now they're breaking support. It just seems like a lot of these growth stocks today are having a lot of problems. So hopefully, they can start to get back up, but just be a little careful. It seems like a lot of these stocks have been flying down lately. It just it's a pretty bad scenario, but hopefully it creates some great buying opportunities. I'm really hoping that like DraftKings can start to get back up after breaking that 40 support.
I'm with you. All right, we have George saying PayPal also on a nice recovery. So looking at PayPal, yeah, it's actually popping up pretty well today. It looks like we are above that 215 resistance. And after they had that horrible gap down, what was that, like 2 weeks ago, it looks like we're trying to fill the gap.
Yeah, it really does actually. I kind of like it. It looks pretty good to the upside. There is that gap. I would say if we give it up to like 223 to 225, we would have filled it. So definitely eye it up. And there's about a 6-point move to 10-point move for that. So I really like it. I feel like that PayPal has a good chance to go up. It looks like they definitely established a good bottom support level right around $200 even, which is also a good psychological level. So I feel like that's 200 even. That's going to be an awesome thing to look at for them. And for the longer term, I think you just can't go wrong with PayPal. But obviously in the short term, they've had some fundamental issues. So hopefully they start to go up though, but I have heard some weird stuff with PayPal, Mike, about obviously, I think you've probably heard it too, about possibly paying taxes next year on certain PayPal transactions. Like if they're business transactions, PayPal is now going to be sending out 1099s and different stuff like that. And I know like Venmo and other companies like that are going to be doing it also. And I wonder if that's honestly affected some of these companies negatively, because I know PayPal is going to have some crazy like terms of service coming out, at the beginning of the year. And, it's definitely going to be a crazy thing to, read through all the different stuff we're going to have to do now.
Yeah, so the last I checked, that did not pass yet. It was a proposal for like PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, Zelle, and things like that. There was definitely a lot of talk about it, but the last I checked, it did not pass yet. So that's good for now. Yeah, so it's just something to definitely keep in mind, though. So good point there. Yeah, good stuff. And then we have Jerry saying, "Glad you talked me out of Moderna put." So yeah, I saw this one popping up today. It had a pretty explosive opening. The problem we had with those options is like, one, we didn't know too much about them. Like a lot of times, like you don't know what the smart money's doing, and in those scenarios you don't want to just like gamble on what you think they're doing. If we have a scenario where we know with 100% certainty that the smart money is opening a position, and let's say we know it's like two strikes on the call side, they'd have a bunch of time, we can reasonably say that it's a call debit spread. And there's different scenarios where we can decipher what they're doing. But in the scenario you showed, like we didn't have like enough confidence. So I'm also really glad that you backed out of it. And Moderna has been struggling, and I do expect them to just consolidate, maybe fall a little bit over the next couple months. But it'll be really tough to profit on this one because even though their IV is relatively low, it's still high in general. It's like 63%. So, and it's a $200 stock too. So it's like if we go to Moderna and we went to like, I don't know, maybe December, an at the money option will cost you anywhere from like 2,000 to like 1,300 bucks.
Yeah, it's actually quite a bit there. And, with Moderna, I feel like it's pretty crazy of a setup. They obviously had those bad couple of moves with earnings, and it was just a very crazy scenario there. And, they've been running up with all that vaccine news. And I feel like that, obviously they started talking about falling on, a bad outlook, like with the vaccines. And I feel like that Moderna obviously has a pretty good chance to start recovering, though. They've been a pretty big player over the past couple of years, and, they might not recover right away, but I feel like that they're just not going to go anywhere, obviously. I feel like they're just too big at this point.
Yeah. All right, there we go. Then we have Shelly saying, "Good morning. Nvidia levels, please." So let's take a look. NVDA is not really doing too much, but we do have a huge level right at 300. There is support at like 295. And then there is some more resistance right around, you could say like 305 to 306. With this one, just keep in mind that they have earnings very, very soon. Earnings are on the 17th after market close, so it's tomorrow after market close. So you can watch those levels, but honestly, like I feel like through the earnings report, like it can just easily blast through any of the levels that that we have listed. So just keep that in mind. But if you're looking to play like a pre-earnings move, like I said, 300 is pretty big, 295 for support, and then like 305 to 306 for resistance.
Yeah, I think those are pretty solid levels too. I'm really going to be watching 300 intraday today. Hopefully we can get up above that. I think that would make for a pretty solid thing to see. Obviously we moved up above it very slightly, but I'd like to see a pretty good breakout there. We had a lot of problems breaking above that yesterday at the end of the day, but Nvidia is going to be pretty crazy running up into earnings. It's going to be a tough one. Are their earnings going to live up to the hype? I think that's going to be the main question. And, it's going to be tough. We're seeing lots of stocks lately either fly up with earnings or just gap down. So I feel like that obviously they're going to have a big move either way. And I like how Mike said it's probably going to break all the levels that we listed anyways. Like if the earnings go well, I wouldn't be surprised if they started to come up to like 320 or even like 327. But if the earnings went pretty south, I also wouldn't be surprised if they fell below like 290 or something. So, definitely, it's definitely a coin flip. And I personally wouldn't be playing it myself, but I feel like Nvidia has been awesome to play over the past 6 months, and I feel like it might be time to start consolidating.
Gotcha. All right, there we go. So looking at a couple different stocks right now, it looks like ChargePoint and Blink are getting destroyed. BLNK, well, actually, ChargePoint's down like 4.5%, and then BLNK is leading the way, and they're down over 11%. So it's looking pretty rough. Honestly, I would not even buy the dip right now. Like maybe if it falls more, then maybe I'd buy the dip, or maybe some leaps, but I still feel like it's still relatively high.
Yeah, I would say so too. And ChargePoints, man, their chart to me looks pretty bad. Like they have a pretty big resistance at 27. they failed to break out above it. And man, they're like breaking some of these lows of the other day. Like, man, they're starting to look up, on like they're going on a pretty bad downtrend here, at least in the short term, which is not a good thing. Lots of people thought that with that infrastructure bill passing, that ChargePoint and Blink would start to fly. And, Blink flew up yesterday, but man, the pullback is really coming in. I can't believe that they're breaking below that 42 support right now. And they're even like confirming off of it, which is a very crazy thing. So hopefully they get back above that. But man, this sell-off has been very drastic. Like you said, down 10%. I mean, I don't think anyone expected this today after how they closed at least yesterday.
Yep. All right, we have George saying SNDL wants to try again, Tom. So these MJ stocks, how are they looking?
Looking decent. SNDL's coming back. We go look at Tilray. Looks like Tilray isn't coming back. So, Sundial looks like they're doing a little bit better, in my opinion. GRWG, pretty good American one. PLNHF. Yeah, I mean, overall, I would say most of them look like they're down today. We have CGC, red. SNDL's doing decent. Maybe they have some good hype. Looks like they hit that pre-market support there around like 78 cents or so, and they're coming back. So SNDL doesn't look bad to me, but man, some of the other ones look pretty rough. Like Tilray is starting to sell off again, and it's just not a good move here in the short term.
Yeah. All righty. So interesting. Yeah, a lot of stocks are, I don't know, a lot of stocks are looking pretty rough right now. Of course, we know the standard ones, Palantir, DraftKings. But even some other ones are kind of selling off still. Like we have Chegg, like not even recovering at all. Like it was nice to see Peloton bounce back a little bit, but Chegg's just getting destroyed. Like ever since they reported earnings, like they're not even, looks like they're not even like, not even trying.
Yeah, and were these the guys that they said that they're not going to be investing in the houses anymore or flipping houses?
No, that was Zillow. That was Zillow.
Oh, Zillow. I was gonna say I didn't think that was Chegg, but man, Zillow has also kept selling off as well. Like, man, Chegg and Zillow have had some terrible moves. And Zillow makes more sense because they obviously stopped doing a huge part of their business. But man, poor Chegg. I mean, man, some of these earnings reports have just been terrible for these companies like Chegg. And I like how you said Peloton, but at least Peloton's trying to come back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty rough right now. Like I said, we talked about Blink a little bit. Some of the ARK ETFs are also struggling. Like if we look at like, ARKK, that one's holding up. ARKW is holding up. ARKG is definitely selling off. I do like that one for the long term though. So yeah, I mean, it sucks to see these stocks at low levels, but if you like them for the long term, it's just time to buy the dip. Like whether it's, a stock like Palantir or DraftKings or Zoom or ARKG or Neo or whatever, if your stocks are down, it's just time to buy the dip.
Yeah, I would say that as well. And I've been doing it. We've been having DraftKings fall down a lot. I've been kind of buying it up on the dip, and there's a few other stocks as well. And I'm not going to name all of them here, of course, but I've been really liking a lot of these stocks at these low levels at least. And it's always good, to keep grabbing some shares and stuff like that. Obviously, keep your account pretty diversified. I wouldn't say just keep grabbing all the same stuff, but a lot of stocks are at good levels right now. I really like Corsair. I think they look pretty good, especially ahead of the holiday season. They're supposed to be pretty big, and they make a lot of laptops, mice, speakers, headsets. You name it. They make lots of stuff, computer fans, computer cases, like lots of stuff that people have been using a lot, and the demand's high there. So, that's the good news, is that a lot of that stuff's been selling out almost like right away. So that's great for them. Hopefully they start to see some good revenue numbers. I know their recent earnings weren't too good, but hopefully over this holiday season, they start to get some pretty good movement. You can see last year, whenever they came on the market and IPO'd, they had some pretty decent movement until, obviously until the summer season started to come in. So hopefully they start to go up. And I'm just hoping that this holiday season goes pretty good for some of these like lower priced growth stocks and stuff. I really hope that they can get back up.
Yep, I'm with you. All right, we have Vicky saying JMIA. Damn. So yeah, I was looking at this one too. It is getting, it's selling off big time. I mean, they just reported earnings. It is looking pretty rough.
Man, I saw him come back up right before we started streaming, and man, I was really hoping that they would pull a teledoc or something like that. But man, it really reversed on us here. Just recently broke that 17 support, which is not a good sign. Yeah, JMIA looks like they're going down pretty drastically with these earnings. And we've seen some stocks have bad earnings lately, JMIA, DraftKings, a few others, and they just keep going down. So it's going to be a tough one for JMIA over the next couple of days.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I know that your playtime does have a ton of time, so it's like I'm not too
Yeah.
worried about it. I mean, you have over a year's worth of time, and it was it was close to the money, but it still is. So yeah, I mean, it definitely sucks to see though. I mean, like you said, we've had a pretty rough earnings season. Like, of course, we had certain stocks like explode up, like Enphase and Roblox and things like that, but a lot of the other ones have just been struggling, whether it's, DraftKings, Disney, JMIA, Peloton, what was it, Snapchat? Like, I feel like it's been a pretty bloody earnings season.
Yeah, it really has. And it's just, I don't know like what's been happening, if it's either just like natural pullbacks or what. Cause I mean, I'll be honest, like, looking at this stuff objectively, to me, I feel like that I've been seeing a little bit of a bubble going on here. I don't know about you, but Snapchat, like, man, ever since COVID, like they have just exploded to the upside. And it's not just them, it's a lot of tech stocks. Like you could say Facebook, Snapchat, obviously Google, Microsoft, even Apple. You can just see how exponential these moves are. And lots of people have been talking about a possible tech bubble. And, I feel like that with inflation and everything, maybe these prices are just going up naturally. But I feel like at some point, obviously, whenever you have such exponential moves, you just have to expect little pullbacks here and there. And I feel like that's just what we're seeing right now. Snapchat, they're still down here and they're holding that $50 support, which is good. They do have another huge gap on the chart down to $30. And I really hope they don't go down to there. Obviously, the chances of that are very, very low. But in the end, I feel like that these stocks have I feel like it's just almost like they just have a little bit of a natural pullback here. Obviously, it was bad earnings and stuff causing it. But I feel like with the way that we've been going up, these pullbacks aren't too drastic, at least given the huge exponential moves we have. And to be honest, like on a yearly basis, if Snapchat recovers up to 60, we're still going to be positive on the year, which is good.
Yeah, so I know what you mean, and I definitely see what you're saying. Jerry said definitely a bubble. Roblox at 110 is insane, and like I know what you guys mean, but at least with companies like, let's say, Snapchat or Microsoft or Apple, or you could even say Tesla, right? Like, at least there's like real value behind it. And like, I know Tesla's at a crazy valuation. So like, let's say we don't include them right now. Like, let's say we focus on, Microsoft, Apple, and Snapchat, right? Three random examples. At least there's like real value behind it. My problem is like when we have like a new IPO like Rivian that just comes onto the market and they're sitting at $120 billion valuation. Like, I feel like Rivian should not be at that price point, Tom. You know what I mean? Like, Rivian at $120 billion, and Lucid is at $74 billion, and Rivian hasn't even sold any vehicles. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's crazy. And to put Rivian into perspective, $120 billion valuation. DraftKings valuation is only $31 billion. We look at Corsair, only, what is that, $2 billion. Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like it's more so with certain IPOs and maybe even specifically electric vehicle, and then even like EV charging and like clean energy IPOs.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely some very crazy stuff to see. And I know, though, that one thing that's helping Rivian is that they do have a lot of pre-orders, which is good. But in the end, that might not always help. But yeah, I definitely feel you there. It seems like some of these stocks are definitely like way overbought. And then like obviously like Apple, which is a, pretty solid company, obviously they've just been, exploding. But, like, I don't know. I just feel like that in the end, like I know that obviously there's very weird scenarios that happened in 2000 and then 2008 and different stuff like that. And, you just go back to those years like 2000 and, you go see a stock like let's just say Nokia, for example. Like, you just start going back to these years like 2000 and you're like, man, like, look at Nokia back then running from $8 up to 62. And then, they just had those huge crashes. And people talk about bubbles and stuff, and then it kind of happened in like '07 again. And, I feel like that we're starting to maybe see it with some of these stocks. And I'm definitely not saying that we're going to see a crash like 2000 or 2008, but you know what I mean? It's just whenever these stocks and even the overall market, like the SPY, just gets so overextended. I feel like that there's just a little bit of stuff coming, especially like with the inflation and stuff like that. But, I'm not saying that we're going to crash and burn. I just feel like that there just needs to be a little bit of a correction or a little bit of a pullback here. We kind of saw one whenever we fell from like 452 down. And I'm with you, like it might be a lot of these other stocks, like Rivian might start crashing, and that might start like dragging down some of the market. And obviously, like if like Rivian and some of these like growth stocks, like let's just say like the whole EV sector, like let's say Tesla, GM, Ford, let's just say they all start experiencing problems and they all start having pullbacks, the overall market might start pulling back as well, just with that increased selling pressure. So that's all I mean. And, I'm not trying to advocate that we're going to have a huge sell off or anything, because, I feel like too many people, Mike, are always looking at the market and just trying to say it's going to fall, it's going to fall, it's going to fall. And then, you always miss the boat, like kind of like over the past couple of years, like the market just kept exploding to the upside. Like if we look at the SPYs case, and, it's just a very weird situation. Like I feel like that we're just a little overextended and we could come down, but I'm not trying to advocate though that we're going to have a huge crash or anything.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And if I'm being honest, I mean, that was one of my biggest problems when I first started trading. I always looked at the market and we were like basically always at all-time highs. And I was like, oh, it's overvalued. It's overvalued. And, I definitely did miss a lot of opportunity, with that. But yeah, I mean, I guess like the main thing is when you're investing into these companies, like just look into them like a good amount. You know what I mean? Like look at their valuation, especially compared to their competitors, and just there's a lot to look at. So just keep that in mind. Jerry mentioned QS, which Tom, I think we made a video on this one. I think it was November or December of last year, so almost a year ago now. And we were looking at this company, and they went from 16 up to 132. And at the time, I believe there was 0 sales, and I don't even think they had a working product. And I'm just like, I believe that's what the scenario was. But it's like, it just goes to show you how crazy like some of these like hype plays can move up. And honestly, like mentioning 0 sales kind of reminds me of Rivian a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, of course it does, but in the end, like there's lots of other companies also that like for example that are doing like kind of bad, like maybe some like DraftKings, like they've been having terrible earnings and stuff like that, like to the downside. And I feel like that there's just lots of very weird scenarios. Like you can see how well DraftKings did. DraftKings did very well for the first 6 months, and now look at what they're doing. Like who knows, Rivian could be doing this. Obviously DraftKings is kind of like one of those scenarios. And obviously you could see their sales are negative. I mean, obviously they're a pretty good company, of course. Like I feel like they're going to be good for the long term, but their fundamentals are pretty bad right now, and they have been bad for a while. So it's just a very weird thing. Sometimes these companies just start running up with weird numbers and stuff like that. And Rivian's one of them. But one good thing, like I said, Rivian does have like 40 something thousand pre-orders on their numbers, which is great actually. That's actually a lot more than some of these companies like Lucid had in the beginning. So hopefully we start to see, them come out and have some good production, because I think that's going to be the main thing, obviously, is if they can start producing these. And I'm very curious to see, because I'll be really hyped up about this once the trucks start coming on the market, obviously, but who knows how long that's going to take. And, like Mike said, a lot of these companies are flying up with, pretty bad fundamentals going on. And in the end, they're probably going to have a lot of volatility in the short term. And we see it all over the place. We see it with DraftKings. We see it with all these growth stocks in the beginning, even stocks like, like we could say Lucid, like look at Lucid before they started their deliveries, like look at Lucid. Like they ran up to 64 and then they tanked all the way back down. And it took until like right around October 30th when they started those deliveries to start actually breaking back out. So hopefully, Rivian starts to break out again when they have earned, whenever they start their deliveries too. And it's just a very weird scenario, with everything going on like this. And it's just crazy because the market likes to hype things up, even though, they shouldn't be. Like, look, we're seeing AMC fly up to $72. Well, what did we have? GameStop go up to 483. Like, man, like some of this stuff has just been crazy over the past couple of years. And I feel like a lot of this is just the hype, just everybody getting into something just based on the hype. And, I feel like lots of people don't even look at it objectively. They just jump in because everyone else is.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a good point, and I don't mean to hate on Rivian, but they have a lot to they have a lot to do to justify their valuation with Rivian, Tom. Like they didn't even start producing their vehicles yet. It's awesome to have all those pre-orders, but I'm just excited to see how they do. And even Lucid, because they have a lot of ambitious production goals as well. So we're definitely in for an interesting couple of years, and the EV space is growing at a rapid pace.
Yeah, it really is. And I really hope that they keep going up too. I really like it. And for the end, like I obviously I don't like Rivian as much as I like Lucid. Obviously, I think I like Lucid a little bit more personally, especially looking at the movement lately. I think it's a lot better to see deliveries and stuff. So if I was gonna pick one to invest in, personally, I would put my money into Lucid. I don't know about you, Mike. Obviously, I would want Tesla if I could get it on a dip. And this dip lately has been kind of good. Hopefully they keep going down so we can get in a little bit lower.
There we go. All right, so then we have Alicia saying, "Good morning, guys. Levels for Fastly, please. FSLY." Let's take a look at it. It is Tom. This one hasn't really been doing anything over the past couple weeks. Like I know it had some really good movement. What was it, like 2 or 3 weeks ago? But since then, they've just died down and they haven't been doing anything.
Yeah, they obviously have just like look at this on a daily. Like they had that nice extension up towards like $60, and then they have just like you said, just almost just done nothing. Like they've just stayed honestly like between like $47 and $52. So hopefully they start to get up. I think it looks pretty decent, but I don't know. It's going to be pretty hard. The earnings, they didn't help them or hurt them too bad. The earnings came in a little bit better than expected, which was good, but in the end, the stock's not really moving too much. And I hope they can start going back up, but it's definitely a crazy scenario. It almost reminds me of like Palantir, like they're just not really getting the hype. And I feel like that they're a pretty decent stock for the longer term. Like over the next 3 years, we're probably going to be pretty happy with it. But for right now, it's just a pretty strange scenario. Once again, like I feel like a lot of these stocks, a lot of the growth stocks in general are just going down today and over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah. All right. Then we have Bravo join in. He said he started his day selling NCLH in Boeing shares. He profited on Boeing but lost on NCLH. He's tired of secondary offerings on NCLH. He says he feels like these reopening plays are selling due to COVID headlines. I don't like the fact people are selling these reopening plays. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the cruise lines were looking so good like 2 weeks ago, and like this was one of the biggest reversals I've seen in a while. Like looking at RCL, Tom, we were like going for a triple top right at like $97.50, and then like it hit like a brick wall and just completely reversed. So yeah, these cruise lines and just the reopening plays in general, like not just cruise lines but also airlines, and I guess you could say even some of the hotel stocks have just been getting smacked.
Yeah, they really have. And I like how Bravo pointed that out there with the COVID headlines. Like I know we talked about it very slightly in yesterday's video, but man, we've been seeing some pretty bad numbers with the COVID cases. I know Fauci came out yesterday and said there's been like an 11% increase week over week or something like that. And it's just it's definitely not good news, for some of these like cruise lines, airlines, obviously, and they've all been going down in the short term. So I like that. That's a pretty good observation, Bravo. And I feel like that could definitely be part of it. But in the end, I also feel like that we were also at some pretty solid resistances and stuff. But man, it's really like you said, Mike, we were looking at some of those like triple tops like on RCL, and man, we were really looking for a nice breakout there. But like you said, we just hit that brick wall and it just got rejected. And we've been seeing that so much lately where stocks have been either like I feel like some of the growth stocks like Plug and Blink, like some of them have been like breaking resistance and running, but like these reopening plays, unfortunately, they're like getting rejected.
Yeah, so Bravo's like, why would NCLH offer secondaries? The stock's already bad, and you just dilute it. So, yeah, like it's kind of a debated subject, you can say, but generally it's to raise capital. We all know that the cruise line industry, especially over the past 2 years, has just gotten hammered. And a lot of times when they offer more shares to the market, yes, it does dilute the stock and it hurts existing shareholders in the short term. But generally they use that cash to hopefully reinvest back in their business so that their stock can do good for the long term. I mean, look at Peloton. It had a $1 billion offering today. $1 billion. And sometimes the stock pops. I mean, it's not a lot, but we saw with Peloton it's up like 5% today. But generally they do the offering just to raise capital and to make things work for the long term.
Yeah, and they might have some pretty big, bills or something like that coming up. Like obviously they're probably doing this pretty strategically, I should say. They're going to need that money for something probably, and we'll have to see what happens. But I will say the stock is not looking good. To me, we just fell through that key $25 support, which is not good. I know that we were below that a couple months ago, but man, it's looking like a pretty drastic sell-off today, down 7%. And those offerings, like obviously they generally make the stocks fall. And we're seeing it happen with Clover today too. They had a pretty drastic move down, and man, it's just these offerings are nuts. But obviously it makes investors pretty upset, but it should be good for NCLH in the long term. Like Mike said, it helps them fundamentally, and it gives them cash on hand, and they might need it for something, and especially over the winter this time.
Yep. All right, so then we have Bravo saying, are we expecting TAN and infrastructure stocks to sell in the news? TAN and then PAVE. So yes and no. Most of the infrastructure stocks right now are kind of selling off, or at least the ones that were hyped up, we should say. Like if we looked at BLNK, that was way hyped up heading into the infrastructure bill, and then once it was signed, it sold off. Like even if we looked at other infrastructure type stocks, they're definitely not doing too good. So yeah, kind of Bravo. Looking at PAVE though, that should be good. This is Tom. PAVE is basically an ETF that is supposed to profit when infrastructure, or just I guess you could say infrastructure development increases in the U.S. So I feel like looking at it right now, like it can continue up more, but it looks like just like with this whole infrastructure catalyst, a lot of the move has been priced in.
Yeah, it does actually. It looks like it's had a pretty big move here from $26 up to 29, and it looks like a pretty slow moving ETF. I'll be honest, it looks pretty decent. It, like Mike said, though, it is pretty overvalued. If it's supposed to go up with the infrastructure, I mean, it might go up, but just keep in mind that a lot of this infrastructure stuff might take a little while to play out or something like that. Or like Mike said, it probably was already priced in. Like, we saw Blink and a lot of companies run up into that bill being passed. So, and it took a long time for the bill to pass also. Like, it's not like they talked about it and then they passed it right away. Like, this has been going on for months now. Like, I think we were talking about this, Mike, like 4 months ago almost. Like, I know we've been talking about it for almost as long as Powell's been talking about inflation being transitory. Like, man, it's been a long time.
Gosh. Speaking of that's interesting.
Yeah, kind of speaking of Powell too, man. I've heard some bad news lately of him possibly getting replaced.
Yeah, same. I don't know. I mean, I'll give it to him. Like he's done a good job. I mean, just look at the market right now, and it hasn't been easy. But at the same time, you can only pump the market for so long until things start going really bad. So I definitely wouldn't want to be in his position, especially over the past couple of years. He's had a really rough term, but I feel like he has handled it pretty well. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. We have Bravo saying, can you tell me what's the next support with NCLH and Boeing? Thinking of buying back soon. Tom, what do you have for these two?
Yeah, I mean, NCLH, unfortunately, it's a pretty bad break of this $25 support for me. Below that, I'm seeing a pretty good one right around 22, actually. I think that's going to be a pretty good one down there at 22. Below 22, obviously, I up $20 even, but it looks like 22 was a pretty big one. I'll go ahead and throw a support line on there as well. But yeah, I really like that level down there. I feel like NCLH could be pretty good for the long term. Personally, I'd rather go for RCL myself or even CCL. I think those two are going to be a little better. RCL is my favorite, though, by far out of all of them. But I think that CCL is decent. NCLH is decent. I just like RCL a little bit better. Also, some of the airlines like Boeing, Delta, and stuff like that could be pretty good too. If you want to diversify and maybe get one airline and then one cruise line, that could also be a good way to go too. But with the NCLH, I feel like with this downtrend, definitely eye up $22 to $20. Hopefully we don't go back to this longer term $15 support. That would be pretty drastic, but I think $20 might hold up.
All right, and then how about Boeing?
Boeing. Now this one's a lot better to me. There's a big support right around $208 to $210. I think that's going to be amazing. If we go to some closer term levels, huge one right around 228 to 227.50. That's going to be a huge level right there, especially intraday today. And then over the next few days, 220 even after that should be pretty good. I would eye up 220 and then 227.50, kind of like what I said at the beginning. For the longer term, though, 210 has been a huge support lately. But with the way we've been moving, who knows? We've been hitting off of 210 for this was like the fourth touch. So who knows? We might not get down to there again.
All right. Then we have Hunter saying Penn is still getting hammered. Yeah, I mean, it is. It really is. It's now below 55. It's a lot of stocks are looking rough, Tom, like Penn, DraftKings, Corsair, Palantir, a lot of them, like Chegg, Peloton. There's a lot to name, but it's weird because like some other like areas of the market, like I know I guess you could say hating on Rivian today, but that IPOs with the crazy valuation, and it's just going up nonstop.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it looks like it's having some pretty good intraday moves, and man, it's crazy to see some of these moves lately. And like you said, some of these stocks that are way overvalued, or their valuation is like way overestimated, I should say. It looks like they're having the better moves, which is kind of crazy. I guess it's just mainly hype. It's just honestly, like Mike, over the past 2 years, I feel like hype has just dominated everything. Like Tesla's been hyped up. They've been dominating. Nvidia has been hyped up. They've been dominating. All these different EV companies, like whenever they have good news, the hype comes in. GameStop has hype. Like it's crazy to see how some of these stocks have ran, like GameStop. And it's crazy what I think. I'm not going to say like the internet, because obviously that's been out for a long time, but I feel like Wall Street Bets, it brought a lot of traders together. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, I feel like everybody always had their own opinions and this or that, but Wall Street Bets created, almost like an army. They call themselves an army, and it really almost is. Like if they all hop into something, and obviously like even if a little bit of them hop into something, it's going to create a pretty big thing. And I always go on there just to look at the memes and stuff like that. But I feel like it's a lot of people are on there, and they all band together and they do the same thing. And I feel like that really creates some crazy market fluctuations. And we've seen it with GameStop. I feel like it's happening with Rivian right now. It happens with a lot of things that, as long as it's in the headlines and it's really hyped up, they like to really get behind it, especially with these crazier things like Rivian.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. All right, then we have Bravo saying, I don't understand why futures are up and stocks are down. So looking at the market, both the stock and the futures are up right now. One thing that might be a little bit confusing, so perfect, we have Tom pulling it up on the chart right now, but we can see that here's the futures chart on the left and the stock chart is on the right. It's basically identical. One thing that can be confusing sometimes is the futures have like a different opening time compared to the stock. So for example, like it might look like sometimes like they might be up different percentages. So just keep that in mind, but generally they move extremely correlated. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and you can see like the SPY had a little bit of a double top up here, like right around 469 even. And then you can see that the S&P 500 futures had a double top right around 4,695. And here's how almost exact these things are, is that look at how the futures on the left side that slightly extended above that double top. It even happened on the SPY. The SPY slightly extended above that double top too. They are pretty correlated. It's not like Bitcoin and BITO where they're a little bit different a lot. Usually the SPY is pretty close.
Exactly. All right, there we go. So, Tom, do you have any last minute stocks, options, or anything for the rest of the day?
Man, today has been a pretty rough day in the market, I'd say, man. It's been lots of stocks are going down. Like, I'm obviously going to be eyeing up Tesla. It looks like my chart decided to lag there, but it looks like Tesla is actually back on a slight uptrend today. I really am glad to see that happening. It's been a pretty rough past couple of days with Elon coming out and selling $6.9 billion in shares. And man, that's crazy to see. But he just accelerated a huge sell-off there. I'm sure a lot of institutions and different retail traders were kind of selling out there at the same time. Most of my watch list is red today. It started off with like half of it being green, half of it being red, but as the day has went on, it's kind of transitioned to most of it turning red. And my watch list is comprised mostly of growth stocks, so that is probably why. But in the end, it's just been a pretty bad day. We're seeing lots of stuff fall, like Blink, Clover, Palantir, even these cruise lines and airlines. It's been a pretty bad day. So overall, I would say look at some stuff to the downside. Maybe not you could almost say the SPY. It looks like it's kind of double topping at 469. I feel like that could be a pretty good play if you're looking at a play to the downside. As long as these stocks keep selling off, I feel like we could see a possible downtrend with the double top.
There we go. So thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. We had a great time, even though the market has been a little rough lately. But all in all, thank you guys so much for joining today, and have an amazing rest of your day.